Let's talk about ChatGPT. There's been a lot of buzz surrounding ChatGPT that it will replace jobs. Everyone is talking about it. And honestly, some of the responses that it gives, it has scared me too. I've seen the code it generates, so there is substance to the doubt, substance to the fear that it may potentially replace the jobs. I've been using it since it came out publicly. It's pretty good actually. It has also boosted my productivity in a much more positive light. I usually use it to generate boilerplate code, find documentation very quickly. It is not so mature yet to replace programmers anyway, in my opinion. So I thought I would make this video to showcase how it can help you learn to code as beginner programmers for you guys, and how I would approach learning to code using it. I have been learning new technologies using ChatGPT because it's much faster. It has 10x my productivity really, because it can generate code, find documentation, etc., in one place. Start off with, we will see the basic interaction of ChatGPT and how it can how you can leverage its features to learn to increase your productivity and reduce that learning time quite a bit. And we will generate roadmaps. It can even interview you, so as you learn, you can ask it to ask you questions and assess your progress. So there's a lot of things that they can do with ChatGPT. So I'll use an example of I've been meaning to learn API development with Python because I'm a microservices developer, not in Python per se, but I do legacy migration to AWS cloud. I've come across Python APIs in the ecosystem, and let's see how ChatGPT fares here. So what is ChatGPT? ChatGPT is really a text-based AI model, large language model as they call it. It's open. It's developed by a company called OpenAI. Gives responses in a way that resembles a real person. So it's a chatbot. You can talk to it. You give prompts and it answers, which means it can do a lot of things like content generation, summarizing big paragraphs, condensing big text into main points, so you can have a more focused view of the points. That's why it's good for studying. And of course, it's coding is not an exception to that. It can generate code, as I talked about earlier. So how do you leverage ChatGPT to learn programming? You can literally ask it to teach programming. I have asked it and it gives me a roadmap. You have to just follow it step by step, which I'll demonstrate in a short while. You can ask it to break down complex concepts into simpler terms. And also it can fix broken code. If you give a buggy code snippet into its as a prompt, it will hint at the possible places, the amendments that you can make to the code so that it starts working again. So let's start. So fast API in Python, as I talked about. Let's type in create a roadmap for learning fast API in 24 hours. Let's see what it generates. First, it is saying that can be challenging in 24 hours. The why I gave 24 hours is that the more you limit your time for learning anything or doing any task, you tend to do the most essential task first. So the prioritization wise, it's actually pretty good. I have found in anything, not just coding, any other field, any other area as well. It's called the Parkinson's law. You can look it up. The work expands to fill up the time you allocate for it. Alright, it has given me a basic day one, familiarize yourself with Python introduction, building your fast API app, CRUD operations, fast API document application. So I want it hour by hour. Give me an hour by hour breakdown and go into details. It's starting off with familiarize yourself with Python, so I'm just going to stop generating. I already know Python. I don't know really, but I just wanted to be focused on this just one bit. Alright, this looks more like what I actually want. So it takes a little bit of back and forth to get to a point where it actually pretty makes sense specific to you, your use case or scenario, what you intend to do with it. I'm just going to stop generating because I just want a general outline. At this point I realize I don't really want to go into the details because it will take forever. So here I'm asking it to outline the hours, hour by hour process, add sample projects so I can actually build, and I'll have some projects at the end of it. Well, it looks like it finished at the hour 12 instead of 24 hours. Okay, so I just want to fully utilize 24 hours. Teach me advanced concepts or incorporate advanced concepts in the roadmap as well. It's given me a little bit more of day one, but it only has used 12 hours, not the 24 hours utilized. So I'm just going to tell it. Right now, this looks more like it. Authentication, authorization, WebSockets, all of it is coming into picture. Deployment and containerization. So open API specification using Swagger. This looks nice. How to make it production ready. Advanced database operations. All right, I think this is a good starting point actually, because it has we have a plan of attack. Day one introduction to hour one introduction to Fast API. Build your first Fast API app. Hello world, and create a RESTful API. Sample project task manager. Test out CRUD operations. Sample project blogging platform. Validation, advanced validation and request body handling. Sample project API recipe book. API for recipe book. Database integration. And day 2, it has carried over to day 2 because 13 and 14, the hour 13 and 14 starts from there. But anyway, it's all right. We can still continue with authentication, authorization, WebSockets. Nice. So making it production ready, sample project, add monitoring, logging, and error handling. So it has all the features of an actual web API that you would actually deploy customer facing or app facing APIs. Right, this is a good starting point for this is a good roadmap, I would say. It doesn't necessarily specify the underlying technologies yet, but that you can do once you dig deeper into each section. I'll do so. I've asked it to show me code for the task manager. Now it is actually generating the code required to create a task manager. So it gives you the code and also gives the model or the underlying data model that is being used in the API. It also uses pedantic. I suppose that's a object relational mapper. So it not only gives you the code but also gives you the explanation to it, which is pretty good. So you can actually have a look at it, copy the code and paste it and run it, and if you encounter any problem with the code, you can ask it. In fact, I'm just going to copy this code and make some error intentionally and say app delete. I'll just probably delete that and ask what is wrong with this code. Suppose I got an error. So it points to the error. There's an error in app delete decorator. So that's how we can, instead of spending hours on Stack Overflow, here you go. You get answers that you're, within seconds in ChatGPT. It is really actually really good productivity tool. And also for bigger projects, for me, I've been using it to generate boilerplate code, for example, generating Docker containers. For debugging purposes, I've been using it to identify bugs easily so that I don't have to actually go line by line. You can go on to ask it to continue the deployment to AWS, things like that. So you get the idea of how to work with ChatGPT. This is really cool. Now the even cooler thing is that I can ask it to interview me. Interview me. What is Fast API? What makes it different from other Python web frameworks? What is pedantic? It's more specific to Fast API and its underlying technologies. Well, I don't know how to answer this yet. So if you know, you can answer it. In fact, let's try answering it. What is Fast API? What makes it different from other Python frameworks? Fast API is a API development framework. I think, no, I'm not going to type in I think. I'm just going to say I think it is because it is just specifically built for API development, and it also has open API specification built into it. Alright, this is my response. Fast API is an API development framework. It has open API specification and Swagger built into it. Is that right? Alright, okay. It gives me a more detailed answer to that, which I can add to my knowledge. It's pretty cool. So it's like having a tutor, an online tutor at your fingertips, on-demand tutor, if you will. So that's basically it. To sum it up, ChatGPT can be extremely helpful in learning programming and boost your productivity by using it to learn a new programming language, or if you're already a programmer, to improve your productivity, debugging skills. You can generate code, generate boilerplate code, find friendly documentation, and answer questions in one place without going through all the documentation or scouring through the internet. But you have to do it responsibly, because at the end, especially when you're a beginner programmer, you don't really need to copy paste the code, and that's not really learning. The goal of learning is to be a problem solver, creative thinking, and improve your logic to solve problems. Yeah, this can assist you in that process, and just keep that in mind and use it responsibly, and you'll boost your productivity 10x. You'll finish the process much faster. And as far as the it replacing other jobs go, I'm not really sure at this point, but it definitely has the potential, but not yet. I saw this quote on social media the other day that ChatGPT is not yet mature, or will not replace programmers, but programmers who use ChatGPT, they will replace you. So with that being said, I'll see you in the next video. If you like this video, check out the next one.